Charles, I have a very special surprise announcement for everybody.
What's that, Jason?
Can you guess?
You magically encountered a twin brother named Jaden, who is somehow managed to get here to New York City, or your technological skills have allowed you to teleport all the way to New York from somewhere out west.
Well, no. Today is the first day that viewers can watch a simulcast of Sunday with Charles on the brand new Sunday with Charles YouTube channel.
Oh, wow. That's
which
great.
Should be live streaming this video right now. I don't have an easy way to check it.
Maybe a viewer.
But people can check it and let me know. And then we'll check the comments in a minute. But I somehow knew you had guessed that the surprise was that I'm in New York, which also I am.
Are you sure?
This could be visual effects, Charles.
I mean, you're pretty good at that.
Question everything.
You're pretty good at that.
You got to question everything, Charles. So, a lot of people will be surprised to see me here because I had a video yesterday from Lincoln, Nebraska.
Wow.
And, I had to come back to New York, Charles. The road trip has been cut a bit short by an automobile accident requiring repair, and people are going to wonder, why didn't I just fix it where I was? It was going to take weeks. My auto insurance doesn't cover a rental car, and I would have just been cooling my heels in a hotel in Los Angeles, which would have been expensive. So I decided to come back here, fix the car, regroup, do some more shows, walking around New York City, figure out what's going on, how long it takes to fix the car, take care of some stuff here in New York, and then get back on the road. But it gives us an opportunity to evaluate what's been going on here. How long have I been gone? Like 3 months?
This is did you leave at the end of February or the end of January?
February, like
2 months.
Sometime in February. But it's been a while. How would you say the city is doing?
Well, I think because the weather is getting warmer, and indeed it's sunny now where it was cold and rainy this morning. I think you're seeing a lot of people just say, I've had enough of this lockdown crap, I'm coming out. And I'm going to try to enjoy what's left of the city as I decide where I'm going to live next.
Right.
You viewers who remember our early walkabouts in March 15th, March 20th or whatever, will be surprised at this amount of activity. I mean, I think one of the first or second ones we did post-lockdown, we were walking in Times Square and there were no cars.
Yeah.
Walking in up 6th Avenue, there was nothing. So what's your sense of the graffiti, Jason? Is there more or less of it?
Well, right. Let me, I was just checking to see if we're live, and it looks like we are. Thank you to the nearly 200 people watching on Crowdsource The Truth 3. Let me get my head in the game here and evaluate, because I got in very late last night, driving all day yesterday, and I haven't really had a chance to evaluate the city. And my initial feeling is that I'm not immediately hit by a dramatic difference.
Well, we may see it on the walk around today. What I have noticed down in the village is that there are a much larger number of beggars, and more aggressive beggars, more desperate beggars, to the point where if you go out at dusk or you go out in the morning, in certain parts of the village you might encounter one every block, one or more. You find them in front of ATMs, you find them in front of restaurants and delis. And it's not that I'm down on beggars. I'm down on the concept that we would lock the city and state and federal governments down, continue to spend on government $7 trillion, let's say, a year, which is more than $500 million a month.
Wow.
And that's all in, and we would still be in a position where it would seem there are intractable issues of homeless people, beggars, and sick people, whatever, who are obviously not being cared for. There must be a better way to do this.
Yeah, I mean, Charles, as I went around the country, the most overwhelming factor, in my view, is that, we could say the United States is the greatest country in the world, and in concept, it may well be, but there are so many blighted cities, so many dilapidated bridges, tunnels, highways, homeless people, starving people, I do not understand why this country sends one red cent overseas until we can address everything going on around here, everything going on. I mean, when I left Chicago, whoops, I just revealed that there's going to be a Chicago video coming out. I might release that for sponsors only on subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth, because I've been trying to be nice and generous and release all the Ghost Town USA videos on the free channels, but what's happened is there's been a real precipitous decline in sponsorship. So
there's an example
business plan.
Beggar in front of store, I think, perhaps.
The business plan proposed by those who want everything to be for free is failing. But I mean, it was just overwhelming, Charles. We really need to fix this country. When I left Chicago, the highway I was driving on was so broken up and damaged. I found it difficult. That guy is just backing up without looking. I found it difficult to believe that this highway would exist in the United States of America.
Yeah, well, you were in Illinois, though, right? Is that still part of the United States of America?
Well, and you know what? Indiana was a disaster. Ohio was pretty nice, I have to say. And I was surprised that the number of stores in Ohio, I walked in and the clerks were not wearing masks. And so I took off the mask. I was developing acne from wearing this mask everywhere. I hate it.
Yeah. Well, and you saw the recent MIT study that torches the idea that masks are effective.
I saw a Stanford study.
There's an MIT study as well.
Ooh.
Those guys got seriously smart and pointy heads. They generally get things right.
Well, it just seems like if you talk about that, you got to get kicked off of YouTube.
Bicycle just ignored her and nearly hit her.
Huh.
Like this guy. See, they come very quickly.
That guy gave us the peace sign.
Yeah, I know. He just doesn't want us to call ICE on him, probably. Of course.
So, Charles, we've been doing a lot of stuff about the American Conservative Union.
We have indeed.
What do we want to talk about on this particular walk?
Well, we can start with that if you'd like. I could give. We don't have. It's a walkabout, and it's tough to walk and show people evidence the way we will do perhaps Wednesday or our next in-studio show. But,
yeah, that'll be nice.
One of the things I've been doing is checking up with legal experts and experts on the whole area of what are called 501c4s. These are tax-exempt entities, the contributions to which by Americans are not tax deductible. Okay, so it's unlike a 501c3 where the contributions are tax deductible. So, in theory, Matt Schlapp and the other people who previously ran American Conservative Union, in parentheses, into the ground, are smart.
Why?
And well, in theory they are. I mean, they tout the thing as America's leading conservative organization. It's been around by some accounts since 1963, others 1973. Who knows how long it's actually been around. Lots of folks have sent lots of reports in to the IRS, to multiple state governments, to the post office to get reduced rate postage. They've signed GameStop. Yeah.
Let's look at the sign on the door and see what it says. Oh, they're open. Wow.
Yeah.
So GameStonk is doing all right.
I guess.
Sorry.
It's okay. So multiple legal agreements have been entered into involving this American Conservative Union and its supposed affiliate, the American Conservative Union Foundation, including arrangements with fundraising counsel and solicitation agents, many different ones, many different places, many different times, bank loans or mortgage loans and other types of agreements. And typically the way these types of agreements work, they discuss who the parties are right up front. They say, this is an agreement between American Conservative Union,
Always.
right? And they might define it in the agreement or not. And what I discovered by really spending perhaps too much time on this and looking at model agreements for real 501c4s is that the legal work on this is so disastrously bad. Not only was it bad when the thing was created, it was articles of incorporation were first adopted by a long list of directors beginning May, I want to say 19th, 1979, or May 21st, 1979. And ultimately, those agreements, those articles were filed with the Washington D.C. Recorder of Deeds on June 28, 1979, and then bylaws were adopted by the Board of Directors on June 28, 1979. So technically, the earliest date that this American Conservative Union was incorporated, formally organized rather, was June 28, 1979. And the first time they amended their articles of incorporation after that, excuse me.
There's a sale at Victoria's Secret, Charles.
Yeah, of the signage.
Yeah, well, you want to get a Louis Vuitton bag?
You think you get Marriott points for that?
Absolutely.
I'm sure they're fully on warranty as well.
Yeah.
But anyway, so the articles were incorporated, were organized, were adopted and organized, in theory, June 28, 1979. Incorporated June 28, 1979. Bylaws adopted July 15, 1979. And when you read the articles of incorporation that are on file in New York, in California, in Massachusetts, and different places, they fail the organizational test in the first draft. And the reason that's Happy Socks?
Yeah, the spokesperson.
Who is that?
I don't know, but they're happy about
Zandra
socks.
Rhodes.
Happy about socks.
God.
Sorry,
George
Joe.
H.W. Bush's corpse. Let's just slow down so we don't have it right here. So when you read the articles of incorporation for this supposed entity that's tax exempt, you discover that in the all-important purposes section, the purposes are not limited to being tax exempt, which is a key thing you have to do if you want to get tax exemption. You can't say in your articles that you can do whatever you want to do. You have to very specifically say that the purposes of the organization are limited, in the case of a 501c4, to tax exempt purposes as defined under section 501c4 of the Internal Revenue Code. This is out, yeah.
Yeah, this was not out when I left.
Yeah.
Tax. That's a chain.
And this is not out either.
Now it's closed.
But the garbage from McDonald's is in. Garbage
Yeah.
is in, Jason. Restaurants are out.
It's garbage.
So
It's going to be like Sylvester Stallone, where Taco Bell is the only restaurant that remains.
So just staying narrowly on this point, if you're going to pretend that you're a tax-exempt 501c4, and you're going to pretend that you're smart as the chairman, and the vice chairman, and the whatever secretary and the treasurer, and you're going to pretend that you really value the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence and the free enterprise system and the spirit that made America great, it would seem to me that it shouldn't take you much time at all to realize that your articles are seriously defective and need to be changed. They need to be amended to make some tightening changes. And then also,
That's out.
yeah, the Beat Center. Also, as you get into the particulars of some of the different articles, the drafting errors in the main articles of incorporation, they seem small, but when you really dwell in on them, they just somebody probably took a form and took a first-year law student or an 85-year-old dolt lawyer and said, we don't really care what you put together here, just give us something that we can show to the IRS and we'll make this happen. And then for decades, nobody at the American Conservative Union, including the great Schlapper, nobody decided to go and go over all go over and say, listen, we have to really tighten this. And I watch this guy, he's going to walk right into traffic. We have to we're just going to operate the way we want to operate and turn around and criticize, as conservatives, progressives and liberals, for being revolutionaries and Alinskyites and not getting the paperwork right. I mean, it's almost as if the folks who were involved with this American Conservative Union from the get-go did not have the best interests of conservatives at heart and wanted to create a paper tiger that could be used to make noise, but in the end, that was grievously wounded and could not function effectively in the fight that's upon us now, where on the one hand we have the forces of communism and socialism and anarchy trying to literally burn this country down. On the other hand, we have the remnants of the coalition that supported Donald Trump and his ideas, and we don't really have what we need at the moment. We don't have a clean conservative organization. We have, in my view, the American Conservative Union to begin with, which is the oldest one of them. We have a defective group of counterfeit conservatives. Then to compound those errors, which began May 21, 1979, they thought it was a great idea, somebody did, to create this John M. Ashbrook Educational Foundation, whose articles were adopted on the 24th of February 1983, but for which there are no bylaws in its name, so it was never organized.
Before you go on to the Ashbrook Foundation, I want to go one step further than to just say they created a paper tiger, Charles. I think the purpose was to turn it into essentially fly paper, or as David Hawkins would say, a sandbox, a honeypot, where you attract all the prominent and promising future conservative leaders to this thing. People like James O'Keefe, you know, he's hot on the heels of a lot of things. And then if you come out and say, oh, wait a minute, the whole thing's a scam and everybody involved in it is now being investigated for financial whatever, that is so damaging. And it also, it's just an incredibly effective strategy, because someone like me might be reluctant to, and people are telling me even, to lay off of this thing because people like James O'Keefe are involved in it and he's so great. And I do agree that the work that he's doing is very good. My initial thought would be that he doesn't know about any of this.
Yeah, I've met him. He's a good guy. I've met him several times. But he fits the mold that goes back to William Buckley, for that matter. When William Buckley published God and Man at Yale, he was 24. And so he became catapulted to the front of a conservative movement at age 24, kind of like O'Keefe, kind of like some of the other people you see, whether it's Bill Clinton, young governor, or Joe Biden, young senator. The playbook seems to be you get people who really aren't ready.
Yes.
Like Kamala Harris, for example, or Barack Obama, or George W. Bush, and they're so delighted to rise as quickly as they did rise, and they realize in their heart of hearts, if they got half a brain left, that they really need help. So they play the public persona, but the people pulling the strings are people whose faces you never see, who most likely are crooked as, excuse me, the technical term, crooked as fuck.
Right.
So here we are. We'll continue the stream in a second, but this pastry shop, which is I think extremely expensive, has somehow managed to thrive in COVID. It must have COVID detectors in there.
Well, I mean, I wonder to what extent a business like this could be owned by somebody who doesn't care if it makes money or not.
Yeah, it's owned by somebody who doesn't mind spending a lot of money on furnishings. But it's a French chain in theory since 1903.
Angelina. Right, so I mean, again, if it's a corporate, well, look at the floor.
Let's look at the prices. Do these seem reasonable, Jason? A Parisian breakfast for $22. How many of those do you want?
What is it?
Tea, coffee, or hot chocolate, juice, mini croissant, and a bread roll. If you want a better breakfast, it's $30. And that doesn't get you, as let's say, a Bloody Mary or anything like that, alcoholic.
Yeah, people are having a tough time finding the new Sunday with Charles YouTube channel. I should have put a link to it in the comments. I can do that after we're done with today's live stream. But Charles, this is a plan that we've talked about for quite a while, and you know, this is part of my plan to counteract the social engineers that want to shut down Crowdsource the Truth. If we had been building an alternate Sunday with Charles channel all this time, perhaps it would have as many subscribers or even more subscribers than the Jason Goodman channel. And the new plan for increased resilience against strikes is going to be to have backup channels for every guest host. So if one particular show has some YouTube unfriendly content in it, it doesn't take down all the other shows.
That's good.
And we'll have sort of a network of Crowdsource the Truth channels that people can subscribe to.
Sounds good, Jason. So then continuing down the American Conservative Union Foundation findings. Again, this is it's nice, huh? On the top of my head, off the top of my head, so I don't have notes and I don't have anything to look at. But unlike, you want to go in there? Okay. Unlike the American Conservative Union.
Look, an Australian sheepdog.
There's no way to refer to that young lady. This is Bryant Park, for those people who don't know New York. And ahead of us,
they've left this Christmas thing here like way longer than they usually do.
Yeah.
Why do you suppose that is?
COVID.
But why would you leave stores out if there's COVID?
But that's the New York Public Library dead ahead. And this is the lawn during which in the summer people will come out and watch movies when you're allowed to do that. This is definitely more crowded than it was when you left. Of course, it was cold when you left.
Yeah, and then with regard to your comment right now about movies, I noticed this morning Variety was telling us that Mortal Kombat has an impressive $22 million box office.
Don't you want to keep going up to Trump Tower and down or something?
But $22 million for a major movie like that is still a disaster for Hollywood.
It's nothing. It probably doesn't pay the catering bill.
Yeah, I mean, normally if pre-COVID, if a film like that made $122 million, they would consider it a disappointment.
Right. I know they have a lot of advertising for it because I've noticed on TV a fair amount. But
the big feature is that this one's rated R, so they've integrated the brutal fatalities that made the video game an arcade classic.
Yeah, it's so responsible in the Hollywood crowd, selling that kind of stuff. There's no violence problem across the world. There's no anxiety right now.
Well, but the funny thing is they're the ones who are most against it and profit from it the most and proliferate it the most.
Well, so did you hire a Native American person, as I did, to accept your Academy Award tonight?
That was Marlon Brando, I thought.
And you and me, right? I mean, because we're up in the stealth category.
Was it Brando who did that?
He did. It's just a story today about how that person, I think, was it a man or a woman?
I think it was a woman.
Yeah, her last name was something like Littlefeather, which would be a good name for Joe Biden. He's definitely a little feather, but
little brain,
little person. But so just if I could finish on American Conservative Union Foundation, just as I explained that in the American Conservative Union, there's no opening sentence saying the purpose of this corporation is to be tax exempt under 501c4. Similarly, in the opening for American Conservative Union Foundation, or really its predecessor, I always think, which way?
Whichever, yeah.
It's red. I figured, you want to go down to Times Square now?
It doesn't matter. We'll come back through Times Square.
All right.
See if the naked cowboy is out.
I hope not.
I'm sure he is.
So
they never stated the purpose.
Well, they never say that the purpose is to restrict the operations of this John M. Ashbrook Educational Foundation to 501c3 tax-exempt purposes. So I think they make a mistake in the way they do that, but there is no evidence. Indeed, there's counter evidence suggesting that the John M. Ashbrook Educational Foundation, A, ever validly got tax exemption from the IRS, and B, if it did, ever transferred control to current existing officers of American Conservative Union. There's no evidence of that. And yet, with regard to both foundations, multiple people have made multiple representations under penalties of perjury in and across state lines, basically lying their asses off. They make materially false statements in the sense that what they're saying is incorrect, and then they also omit disclosures which are necessary to make the filings not misleading. And this is a long-standing pattern and practice that goes all the way back to 1979. You can't say it's a one-armed paper hanger. Just, we employed stories today about crossbreeding monkeys and humans.
Why would they want to do that?
I don't know. It's the same people, probably the same team that with Bill Gates that wants to dim the sun. What could possibly go wrong with that?
But what is the stated purpose of this type of...
I don't know, Jason. It's science. They're following the science.
Oh.
But saying that on American Conservative Union Foundation, there really is not a credible argument in favor of either of that entity or the union ever having been lawfully organized or operated. There just isn't. And so for the IRS...
Perhaps they were concerned the actual filings would upset them.
But for the IRS just to give them a pass, for Tish James, for example, to give both of these things a pass here in New York when she shut the Trump Foundation down and said that certain Trump family members could never again serve on the boards of foundations because their behavior was so egregious over a very short period. But you're going to let these people slide going back to 1979, and you're going to do it.
It's actually not even as bad as some of the stuff these other guys did.
Right. And so it's inexplicable to me, because you would have thought that Kamala Harris, or Kamala, or whatever, or Kamala Harris, whatever you want to call her, you would have thought that in her role as Attorney General, she might have, in California, she might have severely disciplined both entities. I mean, you go on the California Registry of Charitable Trust sites, which is a great site actually, and you look at the American Conservative Union, and they show you, once you get to it, you stop.
Well, let's just pause here for a second, because first of all, I'm detecting that you're talking and walking a lot, and second of all, it does sort of feel like things are subtly quieter and more closed.
Yeah.
I need to do more walking around to really evaluate. This building is for sale, or the lot.
Yeah. This used to have a little Christmas place in it.
Oh yeah, right.
So back on the California site,
yeah.
when you punch in American Conservative Union, you have to punch in its EIN, employer identification number, because they've withdrawn from filing in California, and you don't immediately get to it when you just put the name in. But if you put the EIN, you do. Looks like they're expecting trouble.
Yeah, I was going to say, it doesn't look like boards have been taken off of this. It looks like they're going up.
What you see is a long list of filings made concerning 2001 to about 2013-14. And what I didn't notice until actually this morning, two things. The first is that the 2001 filing was not filed in California until 2003, and it has to generally be filed by May 15th under California law, unless you get a federal exemption, which it's not clear they got. And then the ones for 2 through 7 are filed in 2011. And when you look in the summary,
it's pretty late.
Well, it's well past the filing deadline without the required audits. And when you look at the various reports, they're all wrong.
Why did they bother?
It's a good question. But beyond that, there's a segment which says, "Did you file online?" And they tick off no. So that's a problem, because it means most likely they could have been sent Federal Express, or UPS, but it means most likely that they were sent using the mail. So sending in materially false tax returns, informational returns, copies supposedly sent to the IRS over the mail for multiple years, and the delayed ones, this isn't open because it's Sunday.
Oh, right. Chick-fil-A isn't open on Sunday.
I would suggest ordinarily would create quite a set of problems. I mean, if the Trump Foundation had done that in California, for example, I would have thought they would have been slaughtered. And yet, for some reason, maybe it's because there's a bunch of conservatives working inside the California Tax Bureau.
Are there?
There are the Orange County conservatives in state government, so there could be. But I think it's more likely that for some reason the swamp has decided better to have a grievously wounded conservative spokesperson and organization that has real skeletons in its closet. Let that organization mouth off. And then when it comes to a key fight, as happened under Donald Trump, for example, with draining the swamp, you're told you can drain the swamp, but you're going to be the first one to go down the toilet hole. You and your family. And then we think I'm of two minds of David Keene, the father. On the one hand, when I go through the evidence, I see him falsely signing under penalties of perjury many, many documents. So I think he's either really sloppy and stupid or really crooked, or both.
Both.
But on top of that, you think about he's at the time he starts these false statements, he's still married to his ex-wife. His son goes to prison for a serious crime for 10 years, and then while in prison, foolishly decides that a good thing to do when you're in prison for felony gun charges is to start selling drugs inside a prison. That's really a smart way to kind of show that you're reformed and you're able to get along well in society.
That's like arch criminal behavior.
And so you have the son in prison, then you have the ex-wife going to prison, you have all your charities a disaster, and so what you decide to do is David Keene,
Walk in the box.
because you're really, that's where they park to deal drugs, right? They deal drugs out of those ice cream trucks?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what you do next for your next act is you say, well, I know another organization that's even more screwed up than the American Conservative Union. Why don't I go be president of the NRA?
NRA, right.
Yeah, I could take that thing into bankruptcy. So
the fact that it goes into bankruptcy, though, it just reminds me of that scene in Goodfellas where they do some favor for the restaurant guy and then they take over the restaurant.
Right.
And he explains how they just use it for its credit, and they just suck out all the credit and then burn the place down.
And get the insurance proceeds or something, or?
Yeah.
Well, see, you raise an interesting point. So, as usual, so going back to the American Conservative Union, we don't really know when it started. As I said, it could have started in the 60s or not as early as 1960. But we do have several pieces of evidence about its early history that are deeply concerning. They're found in Massachusetts in the Attorney General Charity Bureau. The first thing you find is an audit, and in quotes audit, by somebody who really should never, ever have anything to do with accounting again. And this person should just go work, I don't know, at a coffee and bagel shop. And
Magnolia Bakery.
Exactly. Just making frosting or something. I mean, his work product is so astoundingly awful that it's a miracle to me nobody on the board of the American Conservative Union or Foundation would have ever gone over his work with a finer tooth comb. His name is on audits that are not audits. His name is on tax returns that are false and incomplete. His work is contradictory. It's just odd.
About Truman the Tiger.
It's like I just.
But who?
Sorry, the guy's name is John W. Holsinger.
Oh yeah, we've seen him.
Yeah.
But he's the lawyer.
No, he's an accountant.
Accountant?
Yeah, a former accountant. I don't think his license is current. We want to go up to Trump, right?
Oh yeah. I see. I want to see everything, Charles.
I know. We'll see it on the way. Well, we could go that way if you want.
No. We'll keep going this way.
So, this supposed audit, which is not an audit, shows that in 1997, after, if you want to say it started in 79, what is that, 18 years?
Yeah.
18 years of operation, the thing loses, let's say in that year, 400,000, and also has started the year with a negative net worth. So what does it mean when you're a company and you have a negative net worth? What can happen is the creditors
Won't lend you any more money.
well, there's an opportunity for the creditors. If the business is a good business but a bad capital structure, you could put it into bankruptcy and the equity gets wiped out,
Restructure it.
but the debt holders and the trade creditors come in and they own the equity and they get the upside. They weren't bargaining for upside, they just want their money back with interest in the case of the lenders. So that's an opportunity if you're for profit. But if you're not for profit, there's nothing to give you. Right? So,
Like old typewriters.
well, no, there's nothing to, and so you
They
look
don't
at,
have like manufacturing.
yeah, there's
and
nothing to give you. And so you have to ask
Patents.
yourself, why would a trade creditor run up a tremendous payable to, or give credit to just a mess? Why would you do that? And I think the answer lies in the fine print. The answer lies in the fact that creditor was providing services at very fat markups to the foundation and was therefore deriving a material private gain through the operation of this charity. And because the charity has a negative net worth, the mathematical test is saying how significant is the gain relative to the value of the charity. It's just it's obviously enormous, right? And so that's a tale you pick up in 1997, and then you carry it forward. In 97, if you reverse engineer the financial statements the way I can do, or anybody with finance experience can do, you could start with a balance sheet on December 31st, 1997. You can look at the cash flow statement, the income statement, and you can reverse out the entries for 97, and you, just using basic arithmetic, you derive the starting place, December 31st, 1996. So we know as well, in 96 it had a negative net worth. And curiously, two groups decided to subsidize the American Conservative Union, a 501c4. The first group was the supposed foundation, which gave it $100,000+ of cash. Now, a charity is not supposed to subsidize
other charities.
No, a 501c4, which is not tax deductible. You're not supposed to do that.
They're mixing 501c3 and 501c4.
Right. And then the second thing is that unidentified, quote, members of the American Conservative Union lent it another like $28,000.
Unidentified members of things are proving to be problematic. It was supposedly some member of the Academy that alerted the Emmys of the alleged copyright infringement. I happen to think it was social engineers who did it, and I think I know which one.
Right. Well, so just if I could just finish down the financial thought here. So when you look at the situation of the thing in 96, it's in deep trouble. And now somebody's going to lend money. Who's going to lend money? The trade creditor is lending money at an interest rate of, I think it's 1 or 1.5% a month if you're past due. The foundation, there's no disclosure as to what return they get for lending $100,000. My guess is nothing. And the members, it says in that loan section, they are lending this money with no benefit, no interest, no nothing. Now, if the thing filed an IRS return on Form 990, there's a question that asks, did the organization receive a good or service of value for less than its fair market value, or on less than arm's length terms? Really?
Yeah.
He's texting and going through the box because he's just
got to get
privileged.
back to New Jersey or something.
But so we picked.
So they give him a loan without interest. That's certainly off market.
Well, you can't to something that has a gigantic negative net worth. It suggests most likely that the members probably had a business benefit through the relationship.
Keep the thing alive.
Well, several of the directors and other people are involved publishing or printing items that are distributed or were distributed back then by American Conservative Union. So as a guess, it could be those type of people would say, well, look, I don't want this thing to go under. I'm making 100,000, I'm making 50,000 a year. I'll kick back 25,000 and keep the thing afloat and hope that they figure out how to get the thing running properly.
Or perpetuate it running improperly if that's the way they're making the money.
Right. So, suffice it to say that the public record here is so egregiously awful that it's indefensible. And what they're going to have to try to do is hang their hats on an argument that, oh, this is ancient, this is past the statute of limitations, or this, for this technicality or that technicality doesn't matter.
Is it past the statute of limitations?
I don't know that it did. I mean, again, I'm not a lawyer, but I think it's one thing if you posit that the entity is a lawfully organized and operated entity, then maybe the statute of limitation under the IRS rules protects you. But if on the other hand you say what this is a RICO conspiracy,
then there is no statute.
Then there may not be a statute of limitations, and in particular, if you were to draw it out and say not only was it a conspiracy to commit all these crimes, but it has been an ongoing conspiracy to obstruct an investigation into all these crimes, and it involves Republicans and Democrats alike. So I think we want to go that way to get to Trump. Unless you want to go to 57.
I don't mind.
Yeah. So
I need some walking, Charles. I've been driving.
This is the most I've walked in a long time. And so then a conclusion I reached out of all this is that we're in a place where the swamp has so infested the IRS, Department of Justice, state governments, city governments, etc., that the only way I think we're going to get this across the line is if the public gets excited, really much more excited. And I see, to the extent we put stuff out about the Clinton Foundation or things that have in the past gotten a lot of attention, they still today are live wires. People are still interested. They still really don't like the idea that if you're Hillary Clinton and Stacey Abrams, you can go around the country and the world saying, the election was stolen from me.
Right, and nothing happens.
But if Donald Trump and his people say the election was stolen from him,
you go to jail.
You go to jail, you get canceled, you lose your money, you lose your potential to make money.
You lose your YouTube channel.
People don't like that. Fair-minded people don't like that. And it's interesting to see now, Jason, in the several months you've been gone, we're starting to see now, recently in the last week, BLM people criticizing Biden.
I'm not surprised.
Well, no, but as they should. If you'll remember, in the first debate, Kamala Harris cleaned Biden's clock. You know, she punched.
Focusing on racial issues.
Right, on the crime bill. And
which was stupid of her to do because she was very big on that 3 strikes you're out thing.
Kamala Harris and stupid in the same sentence?
Right.
How does that happen?
Well, we're seeing a lot more closed businesses down this side street. How's the restaurant activity been?
I haven't been to one.
Yeah.
Which is unusual. I mean, I used to go to restaurants
This year,
4 to 5 nights a week.
I mean, that's pretty typical of people who aren't like living with their families in New York because it's just not that economical to cook for one. I mean, you buy the ingredients and you spend all the time and then you throw away half the stuff, so you're not really saving money.
Well, Jason, that's if you eat that kombucha and crap like that. But if you make a mega helping of, let's say, mac and cheese and ham, well, you put it back and you reheat it.
Well, I mean, the point is it's more difficult to economize as a single person in New York cooking for yourself. So eating out a lot happens. But I mean, Charles, I would expect to see people eating in these restaurants at this hour normally.
Yeah, I guess. It's up here. It's typically on a Sunday pretty quiet actually in this area because there's
hotels and stuff.
Right.
But
now, wasn't the security a lot more intense for Trump Tower when he was president? Didn't they have that whole street blocked?
Yes. You're right. That's being stood down. This whole street was blocked. They're disassembling it.
Yeah.
Well, I guess Trump doesn't live there anymore.
It's at Mar-a-Lago in theory. And here we have a poor, I mean, this is kitty corner from Trump Tower. We have Hillary Clinton taking a nap.
It doesn't look like a hardened New York City homeless guy. He looks like a relatively new
I mean,
homeless
why are
guy.
you assuming that's a guy?
Beard?
Oh, I got it. Come on now.
Oh,
No
I don't
gender
mean to be
norms.
sexist.
Shall we go down Fifth or?
Well, let's just
wanna go up?
evaluate this for a second and see what's going on over here.
We can
Yeah,
go up to
so-
Central Park if you want.
No, but wait, yeah, let's do that. Actually, Charles, that was a very good observation. There used to be a permanent little police hut over there that's gone. Like a hut with cops in
Right.
it. And you couldn't drive through here for the past 4 years, and now you can.
Right. Evil Knievel.
That guy's got groceries in there, no doubt.
Probably your groceries.
Nah, I had to go to the supermarket today because I got in too late last night for a delivery. And I mean, I've been supermarket shopping with a mask for the past 3 months, so I bit the bullet.
Wow.
Got a wonderful chicken pot pie, Charles.
That sounds very wholesome tasting.
It's good lunch.
But is it chicken marijuana pie or chicken pot pie?
Oh no, I have not yet investigated. Oh yeah, we should go down Fifth Avenue and look at MedMen. See, now let's talk about that for a second, Charles. That is a pretty sizable company, that MedMen. I don't know how much money they make, but they have a huge store in Los Angeles, lots of billboards all over the place. And Fifth Avenue, that's expensive. That's not like two guys from college opening that with their savings, getting a store on Fifth Avenue. So what kind of company would do a national expansion like that into a major flagship store on one of the most expensive streets in the most expensive city in the country without knowing that that was going to become legal to sell?
Who knows? Maybe it's Hunter Biden's one of his first private equity fund investments. What better spokesperson?
Well, that's what I mean. So it's Cuomo who snaps his fingers and makes that happen.
Yeah.
And then now somebody who seems to maybe have known about it before stands to make a lot of money.
Yeah.
There's so much investigating of Andrew Cuomo that needs to be done.
Oh man. And Hunter Biden.
And
I'm
Hunter
still.
Biden.
I actually last night had a bit of Parmesan cheese with my food,
yeah, did you
and
freebase
the
it?
thought of smoking Parmesan cheese. I mean, God Almighty.
I didn't even know how you could do that. Wouldn't it just melt?
Well, I suppose that's one of the many things on the long list of insane behavior of the smartest person that Joe Biden knows, his son Hunter.
So here's the Apple Store, Fifth Avenue.
Yeah.
I don't know, Charles. I have to say it's maybe slightly positive change compared to when I left.
Well, yeah. I mean, you got leaves are out. It's warmish, getting warm.
Doc Nahini wants me to have a chicken crack pie. I don't know if that sounds good. Wow, what is that there?
Shoe grip like that, some kind of Under Armour.
Adidas has some kind of really expensive shoes that they 3D print specifically for your feet.
Right. In factories that are located in inner cities across this country, or are they?
No, the machine I think is at the Adidas store.
Oh, I
or
see.
you go in there and they scan your foot and then they print it and send it to you or something. I
What
thought
if-
it was pretty interesting.
What if it doesn't fit?
How could that be?
I don't know. I mean, just what if there's a glitch?
You got to trust the 3D, Charles.
You gotta. I can imagine a Larry David's episode where he goes in and gets his thing 3D printed and comes back like a claw instead of a foot. That's
You know
your
what?
foot.
This is weird. I was listening to Howard Stern a little bit, actually just on this drive back last night, and he had Jerry Seinfeld on there.
He's funny.
Seinfeld is funny, but you know, when I used to listen to Howard Stern, he hated Jerry Seinfeld and would do some of the meanest, you know, parodies and making fun of him and everything. And something happened where they decided that Howard Stern had too many people listening to him, too much, because he was against the mainstream for the longest time ever.
He got seriously rich. He has a hot wife, and he has a big place out in Long Island where Jerry Seinfeld also has a big place. And so maybe their wives bonded or something, and they decided to make nice.
Maybe. But I think that Howard Stern just became a phony, and now, interviewed Hillary Clinton a year or two ago, and he totally jumped the shark as far as I'm concerned. I don't know, I can't stand him anymore.
Yeah, I haven't listened to him in a long time. In fact, I haven't listened to talk radio in a long time. But
it's pretty windy now, Charles.
It is. It's probably making the sound of pain. Do you want to go over to Park and down a little bit? Or
wherever you want to go.
Let's go past, that's the Met Club there, Metropolitan Club. All these clubs are having a devil of a time now because members don't want to use them, and still you got to pay your dues, and club workers are all unionized, most of them.
Let's see if we're back. Real substantial interference there.
I think this is around where we have seen interference in the past, right on this
we're
corner.
back, Charles.
Good, okay. Well, as you broke some news early on in the broadcast about there being a new channel, Sunday with Charles, and I'd like to encourage as many people as possible to subscribe. I guess we have four subscribers at this point or something.
I don't know, I haven't actually been able to check that new channel. I was just dealing with the technical.
I did tape right before we went on air an interview with John Batchelor and Gordon Chang. John has got,
you did?
Yeah, and John has got Gordon have a new relationship with CBS, which is interesting. John had long been on ABC radio, but he switched, I guess, his contract, and he gave a nice plug
to the show.
Yeah,
that's great.
And I didn't know that there was a Sunday with Charles channel, so that's great. So where were we, Jason?
But wait a minute. What did Gordon? Did you get to talk to Gordon Chang at all about the American conservative?
No, the topic was actually Elon Musk and China.
Elon Musk?
Yeah, in China, the Chinese are giving Elon Musk's company Tesla a very hard time. They've called it arrogant,
public arrogance. What do you mean?
Well, apparently a woman. The Tesla side of the story is a Chinese woman was operating a Tesla erratically and crashed. Her side of the story is that the brakes failed. And they've been in negotiations apparently to get some kind of financial settlement. So the woman showed up at a Shanghai car show and started making a big yelling and screaming thing. And the Chinese authorities took notice of it and have deemed that the reaction of Tesla to the complaint was overly arrogant, and so they're trying to punch him down. But Gordon, who is an expert on China, perhaps one of the foremost experts, points out that this is just Chinese playbook. They wanted Tesla to go over to China
so they could steal their technology.
Exactly, and now there are 400 or so electric vehicle producers in. Interesting.
We have totally unattended stuff there.
It's like, drop your bomb here.
Yeah.
Because it's right next to Trump Tower.
Right. Wow. What a difference in the security profile of this place. So we've got unattended stuff right there. This atrium that's connected to Trump Tower right here. And there used to be a litany of police stuff right here that is being removed.
Exactly. Yeah, it's sad to see this the way it is now. I mean, when I first moved up from my downtown office, Dillon Reed, in September or thereabouts of 1982, everything was spick and span and hopeful and lots of new projects. To see this is the former AT&T building, which was they got rid of Well, they exited, I think it was 190 Broadway. It was a very fancy, or 180 or 190 Broadway. And that had been the legendary headquarters when AT&T was still a monopoly, and they built this monstrosity.
Now it's wood.
Well, yeah, which was so fancy. Our Dillon Reed partners looked at having our office in here, but it was so opulent that they said we can't do that.
It just doesn't look good
Well,
for clients.
yeah, if you go, it's like when we had our small oil company in Paris, we bought it, the team bought it from the Rothschild family, so we got as part of it the Rothschild family office in Place Vendôme, which is about the most fancy address in Paris.
Wow.
So when you have, it was a small office, but it was nicely located, right next to JP Morgan and Tiffany and whatever. And so you start having discussions with your vendors about how you want to get a price reduction on this and a price reduction on that, and they're like,
In your
no,
office, right?
no, that's not happening.
Yeah. You know, I hear you.
But
Well, there is a lot more stuff closing around here, Charles.
yeah, that's the building in which Dillon Reed moved when I was here in 1982. We had, I think, a bunch of floors from like, might have been 7 to 15, and then we had 36, the top floor.
I think a lot of people are fascinated that Catherine Austin Fitz worked there.
She did. She was very successful in the municipal finance business, which is financing cities and states, and she did make partner as a woman. I think she's the first female partner.
That's a big deal.
Yeah. And she then got to work for the Reagan administration and for Jack Kemp.
Uh-huh.
And she's very colorful at this point. She's got her theories. I don't subscribe to many of them, but that's her life. Anyway, I also was in this building for a while. And it used to be that there were a whole bunch of nice restaurants and
Yeah.
things all around here, and not so much.
Yeah, I mean, there's still untold business closures down the side streets and everything.
Yeah.
We're going to need to do a few more walkarounds to
Sure.
get a real handle on what the status of open or closedness is.
Yeah, in this neighborhood on a Sunday, it's generally just not that busy. But during the work week, it's often very busy.
That's a funny picture of a guy with a
Look at this.
schnauzer.
I think
70% off.
The way I look at that, being a math person, I say that this is definitely overpriced to begin
Right.
with, right? If you could take 70% off and try to move it,
I do love these types of balsa wood airplanes.
yeah, I did too as a kid.
Yeah. A lot of places for rent.
Yeah.
This was not out last time I was here. This was not out last time I was
It doesn't
here.
look like it's out, is it?
Oh, Sephora? Maybe not. But
Yeah.
why is it closed on Sunday? I guess it's always closed on Sunday. Maybe just in this part of town because they know that that's where people are going on their lunch break to buy makeup.
Yeah, let's go down Fifth maybe. Because I mean, it's Mother's Day's coming up, Jason. You got to
That's
get your
true.
mom a fake Louis Vuitton bag.
She's not into that kind of stuff.
All right, Gucci then.
Nah. Yeah, no, Sephora's open,
Yeah,
but this entrance is closed.
no perfume for you. This used to be a fantastic Japanese restaurant, and there used to be a piece of the Berlin Wall
Wow.
up outside. No longer. What is it called now?
Valbella.
Valbella. Guessing that's Italian.
I mean, it's unusual to me that on Sunday this would be totally empty.
Sometimes, and there's a nice trash bag there. Some Italian restaurants, so the owners are devout Catholic and they won't work on Sunday, but I don't know. You're right. This used to be a hamburger place. Great
Oh.
hamburger place, actually. Obviously, it's gone. In
This
fact,
is-
this is where I went to meet with a friend of Peter Smith's.
Oh, wow.
He was staying right here.
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up. So Ben Whitty's has been back up to his usual stuff. Now, you had mentioned to me the other day, Charles, that so you're back on Twitter, which I think was the right decision. Even though they're scumbags, it's important that we use the enemy's network to our advantage to the extent that we're still able.
Yeah, I'm just taking to circulating articles that I think are important or whatever. Took a pause, but Parler is not working very well for me anyway.
Me neither, and there's so few people on there, and I mean, that's the problem, is like you can create your own network, but it just doesn't have the reach. I mean, most people are watching on YouTube, most people are communicating on Twitter, and if you're not part of that, it really hurts. I've been experiencing that by this, this repeated series of strikes on the Jason Goodman YouTube channel has really stopped the momentum of our videos, Charles. We were up to about 2,500 live viewers before a series of strikes prevented live streaming on the Jason Goodman channel, and that comes with it all the YouTube promotion that goes along with putting something out on a 120,000 subscriber channel.
Right.
By basically limiting the reach of that, it's slowed down Crowdsource the Truth entirely. Far fewer new signups on patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth and subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth. And that's what they're trying to do. So Parler, it's a great idea. These alternative things are all nice. But if you're not stepping up to the podium with the bullhorn, nobody can hear what you're saying. So Ben Wittes put out a tweet that I happened to see the other day and nobody had responded yet. So I just wrote back and said something like, nobody cares about your beast of the day. Tell us why you refuse to look at evidence that suggests that Peter Smith was murdered and that you've been putting out obviously wrong stories that say that he committed suicide. Yeah. And so, I mean, so many people jumped on this tweet. Normally when I tweet something, out of all the social media websites, Twitter is my sort of weakest. I don't have that much of a following on Twitter at CS The Truth. And usually when I tweet stuff, it gets very few responses. But this Ben Wittes tweet, 20, 30 people immediately responding, all with snarky jackass type comments. And I get it, they're Ben Wittes fans and they don't like me. But I didn't use foul language and I wasn't making fun of the guy. I'm talking about evidence that shows that they have a faulty story. Any responsible individual, any reasonably responsible journalist, lawyer, whatever, would want to see that information. Right. But what he said was, oh, well, you know what, I'm just going to complain to Twitter. And then the next day you told me that you tried to tweet something at CS The Truth and it wouldn't let you.
Right.
And we should also remind people that Ben Wittes' digital lapdog, Chris Boozy, he put in all kinds of complaints to Twitter that got my BitChute account blocked from posting links on Twitter, got the Rumble account blocked from posting links on Twitter. So these guys are cowards who, they're not saying that Jason Goodman is lying and making up stuff to defame them because they know the things that I'm saying are true. So all of these people that have tried to take whatever kind of legal or procedural action against me are cowards and liars who don't want to face the truth. I invited Ben Wittes to come on the show and to debate you, Charles.
Oh, that's nice of you.
Why are his followers not demanding that he do that?
Well, it's really ironic if you think about these guys claim they're progressives. They claim that they are on the side of right and law, exactly. And when they were in the minority, I would argue they still are in the minority, but they're very vocal, and the majority is not vocal. When they were in the minority, and when it was tougher to do this kind of stuff, they were the ones who were pleading to be heard and pleading to let their dissident voices and opinions be exposed to the wider public. And now that they sit as the lapdogs of that idiot Jack Dorsey, who looks like when Osama bin Laden was out there worried about bombs raining down on his head and eating dirt, he was dressed better and looked better than Jack Dorsey does look right now. And who appointed him God? I mean, anyway, the people, the very few people who now decide who gets access or alternatively who gets canceled have the ability to just take you right now off Twitter, off Google, off YouTube, off Gmail. Increasingly, I think fear off being able to bank. And who knows before long, off being able to use a cell phone or to use the internet. And it just shouldn't be like this. We have less freedom in this country to express views than we once had a very long time ago before the internet. When there were a multiplicity of viewpoints expressed across the spectrum in the different periodicals and newspapers and magazines. If you don't like what you're saying or you disagree with somebody, either engage them in debate or shut up and go turn the channel off. But to say that the solution is we can't risk minds hearing something that might be challenging for fear of triggering people, whatever that means.
Well, how about just hearing the truth? They don't even want to risk hearing the truth.
Well, it's their truth they want to hear. Listen, you got to get that down. There's no such thing as the truth. It's your truth and my truth.
How about hearing the evidence that suggests that they're lying? And remember, Charles, Ben Wittes, he is Lawfare.
Well, I know he is.
The Lawfare blog. So when I ask people to visit crowdsourcethetruth.com and sponsor the Counter Lawfare Fund, I mean, this is sort of exactly what I'm talking about. And just to interject real quickly, Charles, there is a hearing coming up in NATAS v. MSD. That's the Emmys suing my company. And for people who agree with me that this is lawfare and that we need to stand up to it, I hope that people will become sponsors. I know that these sponsorship dollar amounts look huge, but keep in mind that even the biggest ones cover like less than an hour worth of legal work. So this is an expensive sport to be engaged in, and these guys know that they can do these things. They're not about upholding the law. They tell you exactly what they're doing. They're doing lawfare.
Right. You see the what's left of TGI Fridays?
Oh, wow, that was definitely not out when I was last here.
That was there a long time ago.
That was there for a long time.
I remember taking a girl there on a date when I was 17.
Oh my God. That's bad.
It was
Charles,
on St.
that the
Patrick's
place is
Day,
closed.
actually.
It's funny. TGI Fridays is a place that I don't necessarily particularly like, but I'm sad that it's closed.
Yeah. They're probably going to knock the building down, let's guess.
And what about that? That building's for lease also.
That
608.
they'd probably knock both buildings down.
Wow. What is Tamashi Nations? It's a pop-up shop in NYC. It's selling Godzilla, Charles. Maybe that would look good in your apartment.
Yeah, it would. It would.
Giant Godzilla.
It would look good in the living room of my motor yacht, which I'm never going to have.
I gotta tell you something, even that store being there, I think is a bad sign, because that is selling junk, and that is a store that should not be able to afford a retail space on Fifth Avenue.
This used to be Scribner's, the bookstore. Beautiful.
There's a lot of stuff out of business here.
Yeah. I'll remind you that I took a meeting quite a few years ago with an acquaintance who was trying to get me to invest in real estate between 57th and 42nd Street on 5th. And this is when it was pre-pandemic. And I said, all right, what's the cap rate? What's the rate of return I'm going to get per year on this real estate? Oh, you can't think like that. You'll get a negative return.
Oh.
This is Fifth Avenue. Eventually you get your money back. But you have to earn the right to get your money back. I said, I don't actually have to do that.
Is that the strategy where they discount everything so heavily that they actually lose money on every sale, but they're going to make it up on volume?
Pretty much. It's kind of like the strategy of, let's say, sports franchises. You pay a gigantic number as your entry price to own the Knicks, but you capitalize it on the basis where you can suffer the losses and eventually it might be worth money. But I don't think that argument holds a lot of water in this part of New York, or in any part of New York, given the tax situation that is now upon us, thanks to Crazio and moron governor and
Well, I guess they're going to tax weed a lot.
dumb Joe We can't call him Dumb Joe Ping. We should call him Dumb Joe Peeing in his pants. Joe Biden. I mean, the triumvirate there. Let's just
Now,
keep it a little sore.
Did we ever find out if that thing that he said about the Navajo Nation made actual sense?
Made no sense whatsoever. I listened to it several times.
But did the wife actually do anything with the Navajo
I
Nation?
don't-
Because that's like a fever dream otherwise.
I know. It really is. It's the kind of stuff that, you know, in a movie it would be, the character would say, "Am I actually talking right now, or am I
Right.
dreaming?"
Now, I think this is new, Adidas store
Yeah.
right here. So what?
Yeah, I looked at having space in the next store down.
I
That's
like
fucked up.
Adidas shoes, but I mean, this is what's happening, is that there's going to be just a consolidation of giant corporate brands and
And Louis Vuitton bags.
stolen Louis Vuitton bags, counterfeit stolen Louis Vuitton bags. I wonder if they stole them from the person who counterfeited them.
These are actually, I think, Gucci and Louis Vuitton. Nothing but the best, Jason. And you can go into Barnes and Noble if you want. Barnes and Ignoble.
Right. Laura is grappling with this loss of her rights to purchase a gun, and she speculates that it has come out of the incident from that location where she yelled at Comey and told him he was going to get locked up. She feels very probably that James Comey put her on that FBI list.
Huh. James Comey should be locked up.
Except it doesn't look like it's going to happen at all.
I know. Probably going to be dean of Yale Law School, or become managing partner of some big law firm, life firm.
It's really bad.
Yeah. Yeah, this is not very crowded, actually. Right?
Well, I mean,
People are at home, Jason. They're getting ready for the Oscar party. Right? The Oscars tonight.
is it
put-
tonight?
Yeah.
I don't think too many people are interested in that.
Why would you say that, Jason? That's a
I
very
didn't even
hateful
know.
thing to say. Now, see, more handbags. They could change the name of this avenue to Handbag Avenue. Across the street, handbags everywhere.
Wow, holy cow. That's unbelievable. There's more, like,
Look at that. Handbags over there.
yeah.
No, across the street, that way.
I mean, Charles, there's more like African mafia sales going on than actual retail businesses.
Right. And they're not, and nobody's buying.
Huh.
And do you think these guys all get together somewhere and they say, okay,
I've seen them. I've seen them taking this stuff out of those retail stores that look like they're all selling junk. So they're definitely coordinated. In some
it's just amazing to me. Why would you? I mean, this is so bad on many levels. I mean, if you're actually foolish enough to buy the real stuff, I mean, imagine what people are saying about you. You know, why'd you pay $1,000 or $5,000 or whatever those things cost at full retail when you could get an imitation one for $100 or whatever they are in the street?
I have a feeling if you knew about those types of things, there's got to be a quality difference.
Let's hope. Let's hope the ones on the street aren't better.
Right.
I remember when I was playing tennis, my mother was into that kind of stuff, and she thought she was being really nice, and she bought me, I think it was either a Gucci or a Louis Vuitton tennis racket cover,
Wow.
expecting me to bring that out on the tennis tournaments and stuff. I'd be laughed out of the room if I showed up with that.
Really?
Yeah. I said, Ma, take it back.
So let's see, Charles, if people have any questions in the comments. Comey's daughter is in charge of the Maxwell case. Yeah, we knew about that. Not much really happening with Ghislaine Maxwell.
Yeah. Except she can't be very happy.
Oh, I can see that we've got some social engineers in the chat.
Oh, that's
I
good.
don't know that I'm going to be able to spend much time paying attention to them. They're really a frustrating group of losers.
Yeah. So this is now 42nd and 5th, which is really at one point It's prime stuff. You have the Astor Trust Company. You see that there?
Where?
Astor Trust. That's John Jacob Astor.
Yeah. Well, but it's Bank of America now.
No, I know, but the building. I'm just saying. Back in the day, whenever this building went up, you had the New York Public Library across the street. You had Grand Central.
So old, Charles. They used a V. They hadn't invented the U yet.
That's very Latin.
I know.
But for a time, pre-pandemic, this area was starting to heat back up, and we'll go by it in a second. One of our loyal viewers sent me a story about the textile building, which is being gutted and renovated, which is down here in the 20s, and it has aspirational per square foot prices that are off the chart.
Oh, really?
Well, it's because they're near Bezos' apartment buildings across the street, and a number of these old buildings further down have very large floors with high ceilings, so you can have a spectacular apartment if you want one.
Let me read you some comments here, Charles. I've got a question from Pi Susan 17 asking if Ghost Town USA is over. Definitely not.
Of course not.
I've come back to New York to get the car repaired. If people missed that rear end accident, some social engineering joker put in a comment saying that I caused the accident by braking suddenly. Now, the video that I posted is the rear view. When you look at the front view, what you see is all the traffic in front of me stopping equally suddenly, and the problem is the guy behind me wasn't looking. So the car is going to get fixed here in New York because my insurance doesn't cover a rental car, and sitting in a hotel for the 2 to 3 weeks it's going to take to fix it did not seem like an economically great idea to me. Now, is this new Sushi Ginza?
I haven't seen it before.
So people are saying to buy AMC and hold. That sounds like a social engineering stonk play. Something's going on with AMC, Charles.
Yeah, I don't invest in things like that, but
No, it's a terrible company that should go out of business. Why did they give the CEO $25 million? Tomorrow's Melania Trump's birthday, apparently.
how old will she be?
I don't know.
In her 50s, I think. Let's go a little bit slower.
Sorry,
You don't have to go that slow, but just
Well, so there's comments for us, Charles. I think perhaps for a little change of pace, this Wednesday, we could do an in-studio show if you like,
All right.
and really dig in on some more of the details of the American Conservative Union
Sure.
and the American Conservative Union Foundation.
And interestingly, we can contrast the union with the few portions of the Clinton Foundation that they actually did it correctly,
Wow.
which is saying something. If the union is that screwed up, then you can say the Clinton Foundation got it right and the union got it wrong. Most of what the Clinton Foundation got was wrong. But to manage to get something right that the Nimrods of the union couldn't get right, that's really saying something. That is the old Lord and Taylor building,
This?
which I think
Oh, yeah,
is in the
my
process
grandmother used to work there.
coming down.
Oh man, I used to go in there as a little kid. My grandmother worked in the women's clothing department there.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, the place seems so vast when you're like 5.
Yeah,
That is
yeah.
the biggest place in the world.
Yeah, that and the one down the street here, Altman's, it's gone.
That's
Thank
kinda
you.
sad.
Thank you, Jeff. Oh, Brooks Brothers is gone?
Now wait a minute, the bubble tea place went out.
That's Turkish.
Oh, Charles, here's MedMen. So this is the weed place. Now wait, it's closed.
Well, there's a guy in there,
Well, why would
a
it
guard in there.
This is for the well-being of our employees and community, requiring all customers to use face masks.
It's closed on Sundays.
Oh, wow. It's funny, I would think weed would be popular on Sunday.
I wouldn't know, Jason.
Maybe B&H Photo will start selling it. They're open on Sunday.
They could open a weed department.
Exactly.
Maybe you could mix the weed department with B&H Photo and with the pastry shop. You'd be in hog heaven.
Well, yeah, Magnolia Bakery should start selling weed. That would be their stock. That's a stock to invest in.
Yeah. Yeah, this is actually eerily quiet.
I agree. And see, people don't necessarily notice the subtle changes, but the fact that this has become a CVS pharmacy, where for many, many years it was a gigantic CompUSA, it really, the city is evolving along with technology, because CompUSA, I would say, obviously went out because people were buying more computers online, and also probably from Apple, and not going there.
So speaking of that, since you bring Apple up, I purchased at Dillon Reed the second Apple computer, I think in '82. I may have the date wrong, but I think it was '82. Might have been '83. Whenever the 2C was around, that's when I bought it. And then I quickly figured out that if I use Apple computers or any kind of computer, I would always be deemed to be a weenie nerd type. So I said, nah, I want to do the deal stuff. Let somebody else do the computer. No computer. I want to be the person bringing in business and getting deals done.
Not another weenie to run the
exactly. So I left that. And it took me a long time to even think about using computers again. And I just decided I would never use an Apple again because everybody else was using Apple. And somebody, I won't name him, name the person, somebody suggested that I get an Apple product. And I buckled, I caved, I did it. I bought an iPad, and I also bought the little keyboard.
Nice.
And I have to say, it's somebody who, I imagine it's like somebody who grew up in Great Britain speaking English, finding him or herself in Japan, not knowing a word of Japanese, and now you got to start interacting. Similarly, the interface, the instructions are they're not even in type font 8.
There are no instructions.
Yeah, exactly. So you're like, what the hell?
My father is daily phone calls screaming about where are the instructions? How is anybody supposed to know how to use this damn thing?
And then you start working on it, and they say, well, we want you haven't yet installed Siri. That's right, because I don't want to fucking install
Siri. Yeah, I don't
Siri.
use Siri.
Yeah, well, do you want to pause now and install Siri? No, I don't. Yeah. How about Apple Pay? Not that either.
Well, the reason I suggested that you get that, Charles, was because...
I didn't. You just implicated yourself. It wasn't you.
Well, the reason it was suggested that you get that was because for when we're doing Skype calls, I think the screen will be larger. It'll be easier for you to see details that I bring up.
Sure.
And we have some sound upgrades planned for our remote shows. So yeah, to answer that question, no. The Ghost Town USA is not over. The road trip is not over. But I needed to get the car fixed, and so there's going to be a little reprieve here. It also seemed like a good time to come back to New York and sort of take the temperature, see how it's going. And then, the other problem, Charles, is, and there have been a lot of people making comments to this extent. I've noticed Manny Grossman is a viewer who lives in New York who's made a lot of comments along these lines, that just looking at the videos of the different places that I've gone to around the country, a lot of people aren't necessarily feeling enthusiastic about moving anywhere else because every place so far has been a disaster, and that is kind of exactly how I feel. So I'm hopeful that on this second leg of the road trip, because a lot of this first part was about visiting my parents and getting my teeth fixed.
Riveting topic, the second one.
I know. But just at the moment that the last of the teeth was fixed, I got bashed by that idiot. And so the whole second half of the road trip has been somewhat reconfigured. But if people are enjoying the road trip, I hope they will become sponsors. I'm going to release, I think tomorrow, because it's not ready yet, but I'm going to release a special sponsor-exclusive video from Chicago, Charles.
I've been there.
Yeah, pretty exciting. So people who are sponsors on subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth will get to enjoy a nice view of Chicago tomorrow. And then I'm not going to talk about exactly when the road trip will resume, and for people who are feeling confused as to how did Jason get from Nebraska to New York, I'm not going to talk about any of that, because obviously there are people who want to do me harm, and by having them, keeping them constantly guessing, that seems to be to my benefit. Charles, look who it is. Weed World.
There you go. You're home.
Now legal.
You're home. Over 1 million stoned.
But I still don't think it's necessarily legal to just drive up a truck and start selling weed out of it. I think you need probably licenses and things.
In this city, I don't think you need anything. Right? They're not going to enforce it.
She's
There's probably a
rolling
cop
joint
just
right there.
cop just probably, got his or her weekly supply of weed. There's what's left of the Empire State Building.
Yeah, what's going on with the Empire State Building?
Well, I don't see many tourists.
That's a good point. I think maybe I should do an Empire State Building video at some point this week or next. But the other thing I want to remind people about, Charles, is that the other reason I came back is that there's a lot of stuff going on in several of my lawsuits over the next couple of weeks. Actually, it could be a pivotal turning point in 2 of them. And so being back in New York, I think, is going to be potentially helpful.
That's good. It's getting warmer.
What else do we want to discuss today, Charles?
Well, I want to show the loyal viewer, I want to show the textile building, which is coming up here. Yeah, just empty.
Yeah.
Absolutely empty.
Right, it's Sunday. Wait a minute, let's just wait on this for a second, because you're right. There should be a line around the block for the Empire State Building on a sunny Sunday like this. And there's nobody there.
Well, there's nobody flying.
Right.
There's very few people coming from Europe or anywhere to come to New York.
Right.
I think what you're going to start to see, though, on the issue of other cities being down, I think you're going to see more and more people chuck it and move to the country.
Oh, it's already happened.
Well, I used to think this would happen in the early 2000s with broadband internet, but I think it's taken a fair amount of time for people to get comfortable the way they are now using the internet. And people used to have, I did, and myself had concerns about buying things over the internet in 98, 99, 2000. Now I think they're, I hope, pretty safe ways to do that. And many people do it all the time.
Well, it's also not that safe to leave your apartment and buy something in real life, so.
Right, so if you have the ability to really do a lot of what you were going to do in your office in the center of a city, and you start putting a price on your time.
Right.
And you say, I really don't want to spend an hour on a train or a bus or in a car and then half an hour each end.
Do you want to spend an hour at the Ginseng Museum, Charles?
Yeah, ginseng, that's what I love.
Looking at roots?
Exactly, I could tell. This ginseng from that ginseng, that gin can't sing. But anyway, people start to look at that and they say, not only is it just the strict time, it's the schedule. If you want to get to your desk by 8 o'clock from 100 miles away from New York City, you've got to get up pretty damn early in the morning. And there's always friction points as you try to make it to the train station, and you have the wait. Just get by
You want to be locked in that room?
Yeah, but and it's also just the hassle. I mean, the train can be late, the train could derail, the train could have a problem, and just the peace of mind of being able to say, if you have a nice enough property, you're living in your house, and let's say you have a separate building that's your office. You have the luxury of getting up in the morning, having a leisurely breakfast, of walking to your office. You've got, let's say, kids that you're taking care of, or grandkids, and they're on your property. Then you could get a lot more work done, particularly if you have the technology, if you need to use video connections and stuff like that. You really could have quite a wonderful lifestyle.
I was going to say, you might enjoy your life more, too.
And you don't have to necessarily spend as much money as you would on your appearance, on the fancy suits and all this kind of whatever women wear.
Well, that's what barbers have been telling me all around the country, and dry cleaners, that business is bad because people aren't going to work as much.
Right.
He goes like, I don't get it.
Now, I don't know if this is the textile
not really
building.
Getting their haircut as frequently.
Right. I don't think this is the textile building, but I could be wrong. This one here.
People are wearing shorts. I don't know if it's that warm, but it's kind of nice.
Yeah, it's definitely
Spring begins March 22nd or April 22nd?
March 20. Yeah, this is the textile building. Somebody was wondering why they would think they could gut it and sell it for big money. because
That's
it's a
what they
big.
do to all these kind of buildings.
Well, this is a particularly big building. If you look at the picture of it,
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be completed this summer. But
Well, 22.
yeah, oh, this coming summer, right? So if you look at the size of these floors, if you imagine somebody would take a whole floor, that would be a very big apartment.
Oh yeah.
And you're up the street from Madison Square Park. You're not far away from Herald Square and 34th Street and Grand Central Station. And a lot of these buildings have been increasingly gut renovated, and more still are being torn down. So I think this part of Manhattan, which is actually quite centrally located, could well have a renaissance beginning in about 2062 when the economy comes back.
I want to wait for that.
Yeah. I mean, this is a modern building that has been on the market for a long time, and it certainly isn't finished. I believe what some of the people do, or used to do, because you could buy an apartment through an LLC, limited
Right.
liability corporation, and under New York law, you didn't in the past have to disclose who the beneficiaries were of that LLC. So if you had money that you wanted to get out of China or Turkey or elsewhere, and you were told it would cost you 22% fee to launder it, but there was some way to buy an apartment here, you might say, well, all right, I don't really want the expense of the apartment, but I got to get assets outside my home country. I will do this, and price be damned.
I saw some ad from Montana LLC. Are there still places where you can have anonymous LLCs?
I haven't looked into that. Nevada used to be a place like that.
What are people waiting for here? COVID shots?
Common
Maybe.
sense transfusions.
Solid and striped. Is it a
I'd
sample
stand.
sale?
I'd stand in line for that forever.
Yeah, this is it.
Well, it's a sample sale.
You get a COVID
See, that's
test.
funny. Oh, yeah, that used to be the sample sale there. Why
Right.
are there all these sample sales happening right around here?
But now, look, contrast those buildings with these buildings. You see, we're not very far away from that modern stuff. And on the west side, that's the west, there's a whole bunch of capacities going in over there. And people are anticipating stuff more in the center, like the textile building and others will be fixed up eventually. But you're still stuck on stupid here in New York.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we should wrap up in
Sure.
Madison Square.
Okay, or at the L&W Oyster Company, which is out.
Is it out? That was sticking around for a while. It's out now, yeah. No more oysters.
I mean, I like oysters, but I mean, it's got to be a special type of person who says, you know what I'm going to do? My life's work is the oyster. Not
No,
the
I don't really like oysters.
Rolex oyster, but the edible oyster.
I like Rolex oysters.
And
I don't like eating
they're
oysters.
pretty crunchy.
You know what really put me off to oysters?
Getting sick the next day.
So if my cousin marries somebody, her father is my uncle-in-law or just my cousin's father-in-law?
I have no clue.
Well, that guy had a liver transplant, and they said you can't eat oysters. And I was like, what? What is it about oysters that a liver transplant can't deal with, and that makes me not want to eat oysters?
I must say, I've never, of all the sports that you could watch, I've never gotten into hockey.
Well, you're not Canadian.
All right, or a Canadian. I just never got into it.
Why is hockey not racist? We have so many black football players, basketball players. Why don't they cancel hockey for having everybody be white?
Or the reverse. Why doesn't the NBA have to have 85% white people?
Right, they should make short white guys. I should have to get a contract with the NBA in order for it to be fair.
I'd
This
watch
is
that.
Not equitable. I identify as a 7 foot tall black man.
Well,
Millionaire.
billionaire, some of them.
Yes. So I'm being misgendered to not be. I should just go to the bank and be like, "Where's the million?"
Well, some of those, I mean, I can not off the top of my head think of a white basketball player who could jump.
Larry
He couldn't jump.
Bird.
He was a great shooter and a great passer, a no-look pass, but
Charles, I have something for you to guess at that I have a feeling we could stand here until the end of time and you would never
all right.
get it. What is my favorite thing about Larry Bird?
I have no idea.
The 8-bit one-on-one video game, Magic Johnson versus Larry Bird.
Yeah, I would not have known that. And I still am unlikely to remember it. You could ask me
People are
again in
gonna
a year.
remember that.
Yeah.
Magic Johnson. Was it? No, Mr. J? Wasn't there?
Dr. J.
Dr. J versus Larry Bird.
Now,
That's what it
Jason,
was.
you're in dangerous
That's what it was.
territory confusing Dr. J and
I
Magic
mean,
Johnson.
I was a kid. It was probably.
No, it's your white
35 years
privilege.
ago.
It's your white privilege coming through.
Oh. Well,
Now this,
all these restaurants are doing terribly, Charles.
have you ever been to this place, Mexico?
I don't think so.
I mean, it's pretty well located. I'm amazed they don't have more restaurants here in Madison Square Park. They just have the burger shop. They should have.
It shut?
No. They just have the burger shop. They should have more.
Right. Well, there's always a lot around the park, but the park is looking nice and lush. Definitely the trees look better than when I left.
Yeah, there are many mistakes I've made in investing, and thankfully I've tried to learn from each of them. We'll see if I really did. But one of them was knowing the city well, and with my first serious bonus, my mid-20s, I was looking to buy an apartment or a country house, and that building over there, Madison Green, I was ready to sign papers to buy the nicest apartment on the top floor, and I just had a change of heart. Instead, I bought a weekend place. But this, back then in '83, this park was horrible.
Well, you can smell the legal weed now.
Yeah. But it's much improved. It's not. I don't understand why they can't make the grass grow and be cut nicely. I mean, this is sort of very uneven.
Probably too many people walking on it.
Well, they've got these mini fences up. But this is truly nice. I mean, it's not like being in the country in your own 25-acre
nice
property.
Reprieve in the middle of the city. I do like Madison Square Park.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I felt very good to return home last night. Oh, here's some legal weed in use right now.
How can you tell, Jason?
Well, you're right. He could have bought it illegally. I don't know. I just presume it's all legal.
It smells like
Watermelon or something.
easy.
Is it
Jason.
blunt?
Easy.
No, because it's like one of those Swisher sweets.
I wouldn't know what you're talking about.
A blunt is a joint rolled up in a cigar.
Uh-huh.
But the cigars that are used are frequently Swisher sweets.
Uh-huh. Those sound like high-quality cigars to me.
No, it's like a 7-Eleven cigar.
Oh, that's right. Get some sushi with
But
that.
it's flavored like strawberry and grape and like bizarre flavors.
Get like a Slim
Slurpee
Jim,
with
couple
that.
Slim Jims, and
Yeah. Buy 2 cigars, get a Slurpee free. And roll a blunt in the parking lot.
that sounds like a plan, Jason.
Well, Charles, it's been a wonderful day, a nice return to New York.
Welcome back, Cotter.
Thank you, and so I want to thank everybody for watching. I want to remind people to sponsor the Counter Lawfare Fund. We've got a lot of people we got to see in court and see what's going to happen. And I also want to remind people it's very important to sponsor the show on subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. Tomorrow, I'm going to have a sponsor-exclusive episode of Ghost Town USA from Chicago. Don't miss that. Become a sponsor to see that. I'll see everybody later. Thanks for watching.